Thank you very much. First of all, heartfelt best wishes to all those attending on the occasion of the New Year, and Merry Christmas to all those who mark that holiday, and to all those who treat life with a grain of salt. I'd like to congratulate those people with the arrival of the old-style New Year. That will bring, I hope, a lot of good developments apart from the routines of life that cannot be helped, and we'll be talking about that general assessments of the international situation that developed over the past years, and the assessments of our tech and our activities and the goals of our work at international arena were spelled out by President Putin during his press conference on the 19th of December last year. And prior to that, he had regularly touched upon the international affairs and different interventions of his during the call-in and the Valdai Club and on other occasions also, so I will not dwell on those developments that filled the essence of international life and comprised the gist of our initiatives in detail. I will only remind you that the current contemporary historical epoch is the one of a standoff between those who uphold the international law, key principles, and the world order that developed after the victory over the Nazism and the Japanese militarism in the Second World War, that was enshrined and consecrated in the most important international instrument. I'm referring to the UN Charter. And those, on the other pole, who are not satisfied with the Charter, and those who decided after the end of the Cold War that it was all over, the game was over, and the main rival in the face of the USSR and the social camp was oppressed forever. And then they decided they would be guided not by the UN Charter, but by the wishes that brew inside the so-called political West, made up of the US and their also Asian allies, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and Korea, those we call the political collective West. And having felt that they won in the Cold War, they decided that in the future there would be no need to have any coordination with a strong rival in the face of the USSR then existent, and they would decide on their own, and that would be a top-down system similar to that of the party system of the Soviet Union, a cascade of party committees from top to down. At that point of time, the PRC did not clock up considerable economic achievements in political and economic development that it has been enjoying at this stage. So the West faced no opposition then, but in the past years, and President Putin repeatedly touched upon that convincingly, describing the root causes of the start of the special military operation, on the true origins that compelled us to repel the attack, the war waged by the collective West against us, that had the objective of repressing the main competitor, the resurgent Russia. I will not enumerate those causes, but the main reason was to weaken Russia geopolitically, with the help of creating right on our borders, not somewhere far away, but right on our borders, on the historically Russian territories that were developed by Russian czars and their servants, creation of direct military threats on that territory in order to curb and curtail our strategic potential, annihilating it as considerably as they can. And the second root cause was about people who lived on those lands for centuries, developing those lands, building cities and ports and factories. And the Ukrainian regime that rose to power with an unlawful coup d'etat were proclaimed those people terrorists. And that regime started a total sweeping attack against all Russian, offensive against all related to Russian language and culture that constituted the essence of life on those territories. And now we are seeing an apex of that battle, of these battles. I know that there will be questions on that, so I will not go into detail now. But once again, as they said in the Soviet times at educational establishments, the main contradiction of the current historical stage is the one between the proponents of multipolarity and the supporters of the UN Charter. On the one hand, those advocating for sovereign equality of states that requires all nations who ratified the UN Charter not to impose their will, but to prove that they were right and seek the balance of interests and come to terms. And all those principles contained in the UN Charter are those providing for the international legal framework of a just nature of the system that is called the Yalta-Potsdam system. And now many political analysts, including in this country, start saying that this is an epoch that is gone. I would not be in full agreement with that, because the international sense of the Yalta-Potsdam system does not require any retrofitting. Its underpinnings are the UN Charter, but the point is that the provisions should be implemented and executed, not selectively, like something on their menu, but in its fullness, as all the interrelations between the principles of the UN Charter have been unanimously approved by a special declaration of the General Assembly long ago. No one opposed that, but there is also the other camp or pole countering multipolarity now. So that camp assumes that after the end of the Cold War, the UN Charter was just ink on paper, and they had some instruments of their own. They have their own statute, the rule-based order, although no one saw it. So having this statute, they would arrive to every creed, to every temple, church, or synagogue. And this is the main contradiction as we see it. But actually the desire of theirs to proclaim themselves as the masters of everyone's destiny is driven by a great deal of inertia still today, and this is alarming for me and very surprising, because, any sound politician should become aware that over the past 30 to 35 years, times have dramatically changed. And, the opposition to the dictate of the West is now reinstated, not in the face of the USSR, but, in the face of the new emerging economies and financial centers, China, India, ASEAN, the Arab world, the American and Caribbean community, New Russia with its allies, together with its Eurasian Economic Union, CIS and CSTO allies, including also BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So all those powerhouse groups and economies in different regions belonging to the global majority of the global south. The new reality is already here, and there are in existence strong rivals and competitors who want to compete in sports and economy and other spheres, but the current elites of the West cannot overcome this inertia, and they are going downhill, trying to impede the path of their competitors everywhere. Like in the economy, the US proclaimed just recently a package of sanctions on microchips and AI, banning imports of those microchips to NATO and EU member states. So I have a firm belief that the United States needs no competitor in any field, starting with the energy, where they, in a headlong manner, give a go-ahead to pursue terrorist attacks that ruin the energy well-being of the European Union, and they prod their Ukrainian clients now to take out the Turkish stream as well. And the competition in the economy, or rejection of competition and aggressive, unfair methods of repressing their competitors, manifest themselves in the sanctions policies that became the basis of their international and foreign policy and affairs. They impose sanctions against China and even against their own allies without the slightest hesitation. When they start thinking that someone else would produce something cheap and be more efficient at international markets than the American manufacturers, and the sports is kind of a soap opera of how fair competitions are turned into catering to the needs of a country that proclaimed itself to be the winner. So if Mr. Trump, when he takes office, makes America even greater again, so we should have a close eye on the possible methods of President Trump to attain those goals. I would not like to take more of your time. We have outlined the main contradictions of today. I'm ready to take your questions and respond. Please, RIA Novosti.